everything is uniform. We don't have to have a variety of operating systems and the combinations of hardware, combinations of middleware, combinations of application software, all trying to mix together and try to see if we can make sense out of it. We provide an environment, a uniform environment, and that is huge, the operational scale for customer support under a SaaS model if you build it right under a multi-tenancy environment. So the single deployment and development platform, that is, again, very much in the same line of thought as what we've mentioned. This is just fantastic if we can have that. We want to be more nimble in the way that we provide our new enhancements and releases. I used to be the Chief Technology Officer for WordPerfect, and the VP of Advanced Technology Services for Novell. It was a grueling event to be able to release something every 2 years. Wow, the project management that we had to have a dozen project managers across all the different aspects of technology, trying to synchronize all of the release to come out, hopefully well enough, every 2 years. But the model is different with the SaaS model. We have started with about 8 or 9 releases a year, and probably going to settle at about 4 every year. But every quarter we can release. Our next release will be a whole new user interface. This is probably one of the most difficult releases that we've had, but it's going to take about six months, instead of 2 years. So the incremental releases enable us to have every one of our customer base on the same release date, on the same release platform. When we release, we don't even have to go down. We release every Thursday night because we wanted to make sure that at least there are people on Friday that can help you, and not over the weekend. But we release every Thursday night, and the people that are still it's midnight and Eastern time. This is when we release, and the people that are actually using the software don't have to log off, don't have to exit. They just continue working, and then when they naturally log off, when they log back on, they see the new release. And because it's incremental, there is no shock. They say, wow, what happened? Everything is different. So everything is just slightly growing, just like you experience with all of the other web-based services, that are just constantly growing. And then, of course, it enables us to take very much control over, very much focus on the mobile computing, devices. The revolution of the iPads and all the Androids. It's just a natural for us because every device, you can go to. I don't know if they have. Do you have Barnes and Nobles here? There's a bookstore, Barnes and Noble Nook. It works. It works with NetDocuments. You don't have to have a powerful iPad. So that all highlights the reasons why we as a vendor want to go to the cloud. It's a difficult process, but it is worth it because in essence it enables the end user taste the cloud. See that little boy there with his ice cream cone? It enables it because we can deliver something that is very concrete and it's very tangible. All right. Let's talk about some of the cloud challenges that we face as a vendor. Okay, so I wanted to relate to you some of our experiences. And we face challenges in 3 areas. In the customer perception still, and technology challenges, and also in business challenges. In the customer perception, even though we have made huge progress in the last 2 years, we are still being questioned about control issues. Do I lose control over everything when I go with you? We're still being challenged in terms of security risks. What are the threats? What are the security issues? We are also being challenged in terms of compliance. Are you really compliant with all of the regulations I have to live with? So those are the customer perception challenges. It was tough selling cloud-based computing 10 years ago. It was hard, 5 years ago. Right now, it's much easier, because everybody's talking about it. Like Richard mentioned, this particular meeting would not have happened, 5 years ago. But on the other hand, we also have to face technology challenges. The software architecture that constantly need to evolve and evolve. There is new areas that we have to put into the software, but has to work always under this multi-tenancy architecture. We have a challenge that people want local data centers. So we have a data center in the US that probably is capable of supporting the world. But why are we opening one here? Well, because people would like to have regional data centers where the laws of security, the laws of data privacy is applicable to the locality. So, and that puts a challenge on organizations like us. And then, frankly, having 4 nines or better uptime is extremely challenging. You can do everything in your power. There's always something that happens. But fortunately, with very, very good planning and very, very good partners, we can achieve a very high degree of uptime. From the business challenge, we have to face uncharted territory about like channel and reseller model. Who really wants to be a reseller of a SaaS vendor where there is no hardware to sell, where the consulting services that a reseller get is very, very minimal because there's not much to consult. So it requires a new breed of thinking from the channel. And that's something that we have to face. With SoftSolutions, with on-premise, that was easy. People were excited, to be able to give you, as a customer, hardware and consulting and etc. But when the consulting and the hardware, when the hardware disappears and the consulting is always at a minimal, then we have to be able to find a new type of thinking, among the reseller, channel. There's all kinds of contractual issues that we did not face before, and I will dwell on a little bit more on that. And then also, the cost of the initial data center buildup. With on-premise software, you don't have to have a data center, but with a SaaS model, you have to invest heavily in the initial data center, buildup, and keep it going. So those are some of the challenges. I want to touch base in 2 specific areas here. One is the perceived security risk. The other one is the new contractual clauses. So let me talk first about the cloud security issue, mitigating cloud security. Probably, if I have to classify what do I talk to customers, we have our sales organization, and they talk about the benefits of the software, and then sometimes they have to bring me in. 50% of the reasons why I talk to customers is to address security. People are worried about security. The cloud is unknown, and there is a confusion between private cloud also and public clouds, like the Microsoft Azure, which is a private cloud, the Amazon AWS is a private cloud, and then there is all kinds of confusions. So in essence, what we had to do is to assure the customer that their documents are more secure with us than with themselves. That's a step that we have to accomplish. We have to show that we have never had a breach of security in the 12 or 13 years that we have been operating online. And we have to have all kinds of technical reasons to show them why we are secure. We had to do all of this. So for example, data encryption. The data has to be encrypted 100% all the time, while it is at rest and while it is in transit. And we use the AES-256 encryption, which is the US Department of Defense security encryption. So what we promise to our customers is that NetDocuments IT people will not be able to see the documents. In the US, we are hosted in two sites. One is at LexisNexis Data Center. You know, they're one of the largest data operations in the world. And the second is in a commercial bank. So we have to assure them that neither LexisNexis operator, neither the bank operators will be able to access their documents. As well as here, we're partnering with InTechnology, you know, to provide our data center services. So we can assure our customers that not even InTechnology operators will be able to access their data. So we, as NetDocuments, cannot do it, neither can anybody else because of the encryption mechanisms of the data. But that's not enough, okay? What we want to do is to be able to make sure that nobody can find the data unless they go through the front door of NetDocuments and then is properly authenticated. So we want to make sure that InTechnology people or LexisNexis people or NetDocuments people cannot find your data just by going into the disk drive and trying to look for it. The way that we do that is by every quarter, we introduce 1.67 million new directory structures. And every new data, we randomize across all of that directory structure. So it becomes such massively distributed among all of these data units, this directory folder structure, that nobody can just go into the disk drive and just start traversing it. Well, first, it's encrypted, can't read it, but second, they can't find it. There is no human that can find. If for some reason somebody in NetDocuments hears that law firm A is handling the merger between Microsoft and Apple, and they are interested in that document, they can't find it. And if they did, they can't read it. If they find it, they can't read it. So we have to ensure that that's the case. The binding of the actual physical locations and where the data is indexed we place it in the e-directory secret store, which has never been broken. So humans cannot find it, and humans cannot read it. Then we have to provide all kinds of like two-factor authentication, based on RSA or digital certificates. We have to provide everything that physical data security can provide. We have also a security patent. We have to develop this. Every document that is encrypted is actually stored in an obfuscated envelope, and inside this envelope container, all of the access control list and the ethical walls is also stored with the document. Access control list is the ability to define who can have access to the document and what is it that they can do. Ethical wall is a formal definition of who is it that cannot even know that the document exists, so that if that particular user belonging to a group that can have access to the document, but we want to avoid that person knows the existence of that document, we can do it through ethical wall. So ethical wall and access controls are stored in the document envelope so that when the enforcement is done at the operating system level, at the search engine level, at the database level, and all of the layers of security that we provide, by the time it reaches the document, before we decrypt the document and send it via SSL to the end user, that final act of extracting the access control list and the ethical wall, knowing who is authenticated, and making sure that all of the security mechanism that has been applied thus far is correct. That if any type of breach of security at the operating system or the firewall, all of the search engine or anywhere, it still will stop. I mean, even there is a breach, it will still stop the user from accessing that wrong document, because we have that final and last step of actually enforcing the security embedded into the document itself, and that's what the patent, that we have to create. Then we also have a separation of duties between different users. For example, our IT department cannot have access to any hardware. Period. The only access to the hardware is done by the partner that we have data center, co-location at. Like InTechnology will have access to the hardware. We do not. However, InTechnology or the bank or LexisNexis cannot have access to the operating system. Our IT department that have access to the operating system cannot have access to the application software, which is controlled by the engineering department.